Hi, I'm Tony Joe, Realtor with Remax Camosun here in Victoria, British Columbia. Thank you for joining us. At this segment here, we're going to be talking today about misconceptions about pricing your home for sale. Misconceptions about pricing your home for sale. This is just part of many segments that we have developed that are hopefully helpful to you and will enable you to have some better ideas and advice in order to get the best results for whether you're buying or selling real estate here in Victoria. Anyways, I want to get right to it. There are 7 misconceptions that occur day in, day out whenever we're speaking to people who are thinking of selling their properties. And I'm going to give them to you right now. The first one is over improvement. So in other words, we'll bump into a seller every once in a while that has overbuilt their house. And it is very much possible that starting off a renovation ends up being a big renovation where everything is done, and it is possible that it is too much for the neighborhood. So in other words, the neighborhood does not support the amount of improvement that has occurred. There's an old saying, they always say, make sure that your house is the least expensive house in a better neighborhood. Least expensive house in a better neighborhood. And the reason for that, of course, is it's the neighborhood. They always say location, location, location. It's the neighborhood that brings up the value and not actually the house itself. Now, the thing about over improvement is, as a homeowner, you cannot select, install, enjoy the amenities that you've added and expect the next buyer to pay full market value for something that you actually did for yourself. And I hope that makes sense. You might need to rewind this a little bit to watch it again, but like I said, you cannot install, select, enjoy, and expect somebody to pay, assuming that those people are going to appreciate the same as you. So something that we use an example is a hot tub. Hot tubs are a great amenity, but they are not for everyone. So you just assume by installing an expensive hot tub that the next owner might like it. We've had people that have asked to have them removed. The best example, of course, is a swimming pool, because swimming pools are most definitely not everyone's cup of tea. So over improvement is the first misconception about pricing. The second one is need. This is one that I hear quite often, and that is, we'll talk to someone who's thinking of selling, and they'll say, you know, I know that the market value of the house is $500,000, but I want to ask $550 because I need it. I had one just a little while ago where they said, we're moving to Vancouver, so we need as much money as we can get. And I have to tell you first, for agents like myself who have been around for a very long amount of time, it is immaterial whether you need more money to go to another town. Our job is still to get the most money. So as far as clients are concerned, we're always going to get the most money. Like, that is the fact. So again, going back to the story, these folks were moving to Vancouver. They felt they needed more money than the market justified. And I have to paraphrase a comment that I heard from a great real estate trainer by the name of David Knox. He always jokes and he says, oh, goodness gracious, well, the owner from Vancouver, let's hope they're not moving to Tokyo, because then consequently you would have to pay more than it's worth in Vancouver because of that seller's need. So again, need does not justify value. The third one is buying in a higher priced area. It is actually the same as need. So in other words, just like I said, if you're buying to Vancouver, if you're moving to Vancouver, just because you're moving there doesn't mean that you deserve more money than the property is worth. Going back to need, by the way, which is the second one, it could also have to do with how much mortgage is left on the property. Some people in past, unfortunately, have over-leveraged themselves. They have large mortgages on their houses. Just because a mortgage is a particular amount and a seller wants to have a little bit of cash at the end of the day does not justify a value that is higher than market. The fourth one is original purchase price too high does not increase the value. We have seen this in past where people that have bought in the hot market times, unfortunately, paid a top dollar for their home. Now, the biggest thing I have to tell you is that over time, it doesn't really matter what you paid for your home, because you think about it, my mother bought her house, mom and dad, in 1962 for $14,700. And you know, it was a lot of money back then, but obviously it's not a big deal right now if they had paid an extra $500 or $1,000. So time is on your side. But there are cases in the higher recent market, like in the past 4 or 5 years, 2006, 2007, people had to fight, they paid multiple offers, and they may have overpriced or overpaid for their home. And if you have overpaid for your home, again, that is not the reason to attempt to ask more money than the rest of the marketplace in the neighborhood currently justifies. The fifth one is an interesting one, and it is lacking factual comps or comparables does not mean your house is worth more. So we have recently done some work for a property where there were a lot of homes that were from 420 to 500,000, and then from 600,000 to 700,000 in the same surrounding neighborhood. So what that means is that from the 500 to 600 range, there was very little. There was basically nothing that has sold in the past 6 months. So the seller's thought was, well, if there's nothing in that $100,000 range, let's ask the high end. But let's not forget, people do not necessarily shop just in a specific market area. They will oftentimes broaden their horizons and look on the outskirts or just further out. So again, lacking factual comps is a misconception to pricing. The next one is providing bargaining room. So providing bargaining room does not increase the value. So if a property is known to be, say, $500,000, a seller's first thought might be, well, I'm willing to accept $500,000, but let's try at $530,000 or $540,000 or $550,000 to allow bargaining room. I'll tell you right now, the effect of providing bargaining room simply makes the property overpriced. And the reason why I say that is when somebody is going to look at a $530,000 home, they're not expecting a $500,000 home. In fact, what they're really hoping for at a $530,000 is a $550,000 home that they can get for $530,000. It's just the mindset of consumers. So what ends up happening is if you've priced at $530,000 and your home is worth $500,000, what will inevitably happen is you'll get a lot of disappointed prospective buyers because they were expecting a $530,000 or even more, like I've said. And the last one, the cost of a move does not increase the value. There are cases where people have to relocate and they're factoring in the cost of their move, the packing, inconvenience, property taxes on the other side. Again, that does not increase the value. I guess in summary, how I like to put it is if you are a seller and you're thinking about pricing and wanted to make sure that the price is correct, you have to walk in the shoes of a buyer for a short amount of time. So if you were a buyer and you looked at a house that was interesting, would you pay a price that is higher than you felt or you knew or your realtor knew was correct? Would you pay a higher price just because the seller needed more to move to Vancouver? Or just because the seller is factoring in their cost of a move? Or just because the seller has installed an over improvement? Actually, I want to go back to number one, which was over improving of a property. This is one that always makes me laugh. I had one a little while ago where a seller, a lady on her own, had installed a $900 faucet in her bathroom. It was all gilded and it was gold and it was very fancy. And she was hoping that we would be able to sell the property more based on this fancy faucet. And I had to sit there for a moment and I said, you know, Mrs. Johnson, the faucet makes water come out of the wall, just like a $29 faucet does. And hoping that a buyer would come in and appreciate that fancy gilded gold faucet, frankly, is absolutely inconceivable. So you must price your property to the market. Do not over improve. And again, this is one of my longer segments, so hopefully you can go back and watch it again. My name's Tony Joe. Please feel free to give me a call or send me an email. I'd be happy to provide any assistance or help or advice that you may require in your purchase or sale of real estate.